Let's go, beautiful people.
Airwaves in your market become more and more crowded. It's time to break it open and really stand out. It's here.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Good morning to you and yours. Thank you for tuning in to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. Of course, at 7:40, that is the time. It's the 18th day in the month of May. Super excited for everything that is to come in just a few days. And we're talking about, of course, the transition of power. It's more or less like a countdown to May the 29th. And I know the excitement is largely because of all the many controls. Keep you up to speed as this development happened regarding the transition of power. The rain is here, and of course Nimet has warned us that there will be heavy floods, and because of this I would implore us to please be extremely careful as we drive to work. This is not the time for you. The rain is not a waste disposal system. Please do not dump refuse on the road. Do not clog the drainages. We would have flooded streets and by extension flooded houses. So let's also play our part. The rains are here. As much as we're looking to the government to do the best that they can to manage the content. Welcome to radio. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name once again is Sage Babalola, and happening right this very moment is trends in the papers. Just like the name depicts, we're going to be having a quick review of all the stories that made it to the front pages of our dailies. This I will not be doing by myself in the studio this morning, as I am joined virtually by Fuhad.
Flood here and there, but we have to do our job.
Yes, Fuhad, I saw Shege Banza today, but I'm here. Anyways, yeah, so let's get straight into the conversation for today. We're going to open the conversations with the Guardian newspaper. The major headline, as reported on the front page of the Guardian newspaper: battle in states as 18 ministers lobby Tinubu to retain portfolio. That is the headline. Now, let's have a quick look at the body of this story. Of course, I'll give you the riders. Jinodu Basharun demand new faces in next cabinet. Buhari's ministers with among politicians over secret moves by some members of President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet to be appointed as ministers by President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Investigates cabinet list after May 29 inauguration. Now, specifically, a former minister in Buhari's first term confirmed that about 18 members of the present cabinet and older colleagues have indicated intentions to return on that Tinubu. So, Fuad, as you know, the president-elect is definitely going to announce, his cabinet moving forward, those that will work with him to report, as it is still report, is still, speculation, let's call it that we have some current ministers who are under the Buhari administration that have indicated interest. They want to continue service under the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed. We need people with new ideas. We need new people, they can ensure continuity. There will be no break in transmission, so to speak. So, Fuad, what argument do you think is more that we can rely on the experience they've had under President Muhammadu Buhari to at least fix the nation as it is?
All right. This is a speculative story.
Yes.
And I think the source is not even named.
No, not necessarily.
So because it's a speculative story, I will leave it at that. We will treat it as just mere speculation. But going with your question, whether we need fresh blood or not, and the chance to to return as minister in this cabinet? I'll tell you no. Again, politically speaking now, the way politicians think, the movements we are seeing, the lobbying that we are seeing, the scheming that is already going on around him, I doubt if we're going to be looking at it from a political angle. If any of these current ministers will be like, okay, what is their level of performance? Have any of these ministers done well enough to deserve being retained in the coming administration? I'll also tell you no. In fact, the only one I can try to rationalize and see, well, okay, he deserves to return would be Mr. Babalola, the fascinating way, the Minister of Works. It's probably the only one I can fish out, really. It's okay, yes, okay, he's doing well and he deserves to be returned. But again, if you think about the fascinating is a fantastic performer. I can also tell you that there are millions of Nigerians that can deliver even better than what he's doing now. So limiting it to individuals for me would be a wrong thing to do. I think Nigeria is blessed with a lot of good air across the country, in all states of the federation. So again, it's a speculative story. No source attached to it other than the former minister who confirmed what again we don't have basis for. But again, politically speaking, I doubt if any of the ministers in this current administration will be retained as a minister. And then in terms of performance review, I think maybe of two, we can argue as okay, they deserve maybe to continue in power. But if you look at the fact that yes, with talents all over the country, the people who have the technical know-how, I think none of them deserve to be retained. I think we should have a breath of fresh air. Let's look for new health and new hands that can maybe give us a different direction.
Right. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you very clearly indicated this is something of a speculation. So there's no guarantee of any kind. We can't even tie this, allegation of a kind or speculation to one particular person. And that is how tweeted it this morning on radio. So let's move on. You can get more details on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, and the story is continued on page 6. Okay, page 6, that's where you get details of that particular story. Now let's move on. Doctor strike, ground activities at National Hospital. How poor welfare are turning doctors into patients by ARD presidents. Now, activities at the National Hospital in Abuja were paralyzed yesterday due to 5 days warning strike embarked upon by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Now, when the Guardian visited the ever-busy hospital, it was a shadow of itself. In fact, sources told Guardian that NOD members agreed to impose a 50,000 fine on violators of the strike. That means that doctors who refuse to be a part of the strike, they will be fined. And they also gave reasons as to why they are quite, they're determined to go ahead with this particular strike. They gave instances of doctors collapsing in the theater whilst carrying out surgical procedures. They've also spoken about certain female medical practitioners who have lost pregnancies. They listed about 4 of female medical practitioners who have lost pregnancies because of the exertion and the stress. And this is just, a few of the many cases that they see. Condition of service is something that is of great significance to them, and they feel like it has been neglected. And so they're saying that, we're quite resolute. We're going to see this particular strike through. And then unfortunately, we have people who are suffering the consequence of this decision, and I'm talking about people who cannot afford to go to private hospitals. Unfortunately, they don't have anybody to attend to them at the hospital. Fuhad, can you talk about this? This strike has now become something of a routine for us in the country, not just the medical sector. Pretty much every sector we have, strikes and people going on, trying to protest and get their needs heard. Fuhad, can you talk about the situation, especially with new information that doctors are now becoming patients, medical practitioners are losing pregnancies because they're exerted, and I think the ratio for now is 1 doctor to 10,000 people, especially because of the brain drain that we experienced in the last months. Fuad, are you here? Oh, unfortunately, we lost connection with Fuad. We're going to try to get him back on the line. So basically, this particular headline we're talking about is the strike and how it has grounded activities at the National Hospital in Abuja. And, you know, the doctors are quite, like I said, very resolute to the point where they're saying that doctors who refuse to join the strike to air their grievances or to help them in airing their grievances will be fined. And, of course, female medical practitioners who have lost pregnancies because of the inadequacies going on in the health sector. I apologize, we're really trying to get Fuad back on the line. But anyways, page 3 of the Guardian newspaper is where you would find details of this particular to read further. When we get Fuad on the line, we can always double back to that story and have him address it. Fuad, are you here?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, welcome back. Did you hear the...
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I did.
please go ahead.
All right, well again, I think the doctors are just sending warning signals to the incoming administration. Like I discussed with Sandra yesterday on the show, I doubt if the doctors are going to be able to get anything from this outgoing government. I think the government is just tired and it just wants to leave. Other than we're seeing some questionable last-minute actions from the government, I think generally their mind is up and they just want to pack their bags and go. So if there's a new demand from any quarters, I doubt if it will be addressed by a government that has about how many days to go now? I think less than 15 days to hand over power. So I think whatever the doctors are doing, again, it's a warning strike. I think the warning strike is just for 5 days.
Yes.
But I think the incoming administration needs to pay attention to this particular action of the doctors. And we also must be prepared that it's not only the doctors that will be throwing these demands at them. I'm sure other unions and associations and workers too will be coming up with their own demands, because the reality is we have a lot of unhonored agreements with different unions and workers associations in the country. So one of the issues that the incoming administration will have to face. But the reality is, look, for anybody that argues that maybe the doctors are not badly treated, some of them, because I think people argue that some of the doctors even have 2 or 3 jobs, and that they don't concentrate on public hospitals and all of that. But the reality is that, look, just going to even the environment of work, going to our public hospitals and see the conditions, you'll find there. You know, and then the crowds, I think there's a figure of how many patients doctors have to attend to in Nigeria.
Yes.
So again, these are things I would expect the administration to pay attention to. These are quick fixes. We call them quick wins for administration. These are things they could come in within 6 months, fix it, work with the Nigerian Medical Association, get their demands on the table, have a concrete agreement with them, and quickly implement some of the agreements that are lying fallow. So a lot of quick wins that this administration can actually go into and get started with. And I'm hoping that that's going to be the trajectory when they take over power in nations now.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad. Page 3 of the Guardian newspaper is where you get more information about that headline. And now moving on, Atiku in disbelief. This is a different headline, by the way. Atiku in disbelief as U.S. Secretary calls Tinubu pledges support for incoming government. The body of the story, United States of America has pledged to support the administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in a telephone conversation with Tinubu, assured that Nigerians would expect a good and mutually beneficial relationship with the United States. Well, this development has riled up one of Tinubu's major contenders, and that's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. He took to his Twitter to show his disapproval, and I'm going to quote what he sent out there. "I am in disbelief that Secretary Anthony Blinken called Tinubu a contradiction to the publicly stated position of the United States on Nigeria's 2023 presidential election. He added that this is inconceivable, considering that America, as the bastion of democracy, is well briefed on the sham election of February 25. Now, Atiku is arguing that, of course, because of the many controversy that has surrounded the announcement by INEC of President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the winner of the just concluded election, he says, he would expect that because of how America has continuously, posed themselves as, the major, should I say, exhibitors of what democracy should look like. Yes, they don't expect that they would, legitimize the, should I say, position, or should I say the president-elect position of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He feels like they should at least wait, since there's still of legal matters to resolve regarding his emergence as the president elect. Do you think that Atiku has a point in all of this, and do you think there's anything wrong in the United States reassuring us that they would continue to be partners with us in trade and in every other aspect of our economic life?
I'm going to say what I want to say with a sense of responsibility.
Right.
And I must say that I'm completely disappointed in Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I'll give my reasons. Now this is the reality. It would be nice to ask him when he came in 1999, and the election that brought him, was he contested or not? When himself and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo were elected in 2003, was the election contested or not? Were there issues with the election or not?
There are always
and
issues.
So what the America, the other Western powers also congratulated them, even though at that time what they did was the same thing they are doing now, to talk to us to fix our electoral issues and make it better. The reality is that, look, we are on the last lap of the election cycle. And whatever the United States and the Western monetary group said about the election were on the conduct of the election. But if you notice, yes, they question the way we conducted the election, and they continue to question our electoral processes. And the reality is that, look, even in the United States of America, the last election is still being questioned by Donald Trump. And that does not mean Donald Trump empire, and as recognized by the Constitution. If tomorrow the court says otherwise, so be it. You are going to find the same Blinken of the United States also talking to that person. Should the situation change tomorrow? If think something changes, I'm saying now. Oh, maybe the court looks at all the evidence and say, no, hey, actually, you president elect, you are not actually to be like someone else. And so immediately America will change its position. So, because again, for Alhaji Atiku, I expect him to be a statesman at this stage. Oh, whatever the United States of America is saying, on the fact that, look, this man has been declared president-elect. And I'm sure they also recognize the fact that these cases are in court. And I'm sure that if anything happens in court, they will also abide by the decision of our court. So for him to say, oh, he's disappointed, he should have waited, maybe he just wanted to be political. But I expect that at his level, someone who has been in politics in Nigeria, as far back as the 70s, and then in the 1990s, he also came in, as he understands the drill. But maybe he just wants to sound political. I'll give him that excuse, but I expect so much more. So I'm not, again, I'll give him the excuse of, oh, the wrong with it. The electoral cycle is not complete until we are.
All right. You can get more details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. In the Guardian newspaper, we just reviewed the disbelief of Atiku and continue to partner with us to ensure that we make the paper. INEC OB resumes hostility. INEC refused to provide 70% of electoral document. INEC OB Labour Party refused to pay tax at tribunal. It's abuse. Fuhad. It's abuse of courts. Tinubu opposes live broadcast of tribunal proceedings. And finally, Tinubu's position against live transmission and indictment on the judiciary, says Akila. Now, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, told the resumed sitting of the Presidential Election Petition Court at the Court of Appeal in Abuja of his predicament in accessing electoral documents from the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, Obi has said that he's not allowed documents because the court had initially, or the tribunal had initially granted that INEC provides the documents that they need to aid their case in court. Now, Obi is saying he's having a difficult time accessing these documents even after INEC has been told. Now, the lawyers of INEC has actually spoken in response to what Peter Obi says. They're saying that Obi's legal team declined to attend a meeting that was called to streamline issues around documents to be tendered before the court. We agreed to meet on Monday and Tuesday, that's May 15 and 16th. But on Monday, I received a call that the Labour Party legal team had not turned up to the venue. And the inspection of the documents, Mahmood told the court. He added that Labour Party and Obi has also refused to pay the 1.5 million naira demanded to access documents they are requesting, which is the standard procedure and fees charged for certified copies. Let's deal with this rider first. So Obi is alleging that I'm not allowed access to the document that the tribunal has asked that INEC provide to me. INEC has defended themselves that you were asked to come somewhere on May 15, May 16. You didn't show up, and plus you have refused to pay the fee that is necessary for you to access these documents. Fuad, this argument, how are we going to analyze this?
well, you see, you of course comes to electoral matters. You are going to have this back and forth. Because again, the Labour Party has INEC has responded to their case.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you have INEC also defending its own position on the conduct of the election. So, for people who understand it, when it comes to electoral matters in court, there always is this back and forth between, a dissatisfied political party and then the umpire as to the level of cooperation and, availability of documentary evidence and all that. But I think the courts are not going to wait to say, hey, INEC, and you please just give the proper time and provide the Labour Party with the necessary documents to us that it is within their right to have access to this document. So, again, maybe that's the reason why there's the 180 days for always the need for enough time to sort these things out.
Right.
Again, we must understand the fact that, look, we may have beavers, IF, and all of these things, but like the election process is still likely manual. So reading through ballot papers and all of these things will require much more time and to sort out that. If you look at the decision on the Supreme Court in the Osun case, for a lot of people who are able to review that decision, you know that likely the court, to a great extent, will rely on the manner process of conducting our elections. So I'm sure the courts would make pronouncements on these back and forth. I think maybe the next time the Labour Party comes on, I think the case has been adjourned, and I'm sure by the time there's a new, the next hearing, maybe they will have gotten all the necessary evidence to push on their case. So it's normal really when it comes to electoral cases in court.
Right. Just out of curiosity, the 1.5 million that INEC claims to be standard, if a standard fee if you want to have access to certain documents, is it well within the jurisdiction of the court to ask that fee is waived just for the sake of the case? Can that happen? Is there a possibility where that can happen, where they don't pay any fee to access documents?
If INEC can justify that fee, maybe for processes, for people that are going to handle sorting of this material. Like I said, just imagine how many polling units we worked in the last election, the number of beavers, machines that have to be sorted out. This is national election.
Yes. It's a national election.
That will require, getting ad hoc staff to also work on this
and all.
And logistics and all of that. So if INEC is able to, I'm sure the 1.5 million is not the Labour Party problem. That's not the how much 1.5 million. If you check, they will be paying their lawyer.
All right.
You know that 1.5 million cannot be the problem.
Yeah, for the quality of the call has dropped significantly.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Okay, yes, we can work with this. Yes. So
what I'm saying is that I'm sure if you look at how much the Labour Party will pay lawyers, 1.5 million will not be the problem. That's the problem.
Right. So Fuad, let's talk about the next rider. Apparently, they wanted to tear Ababa clothes. They want to remove his cap. They remove his cap. Fuad. They want to tear the man's clothes. The papers even report that Abu showed up in a white agbada. Guardian newspaper, I want to talk to you. The fact that they're so descriptive. They said he showed up in a white agbada, they removed his cap, and he says, I was nearly killed by the mob while I was leaving the Court of Appeal Abuja after the case was adjourned. So, Fuad, this obvious show of violence, is this like this reoccurrence? It's so common. Even in the Senate, we see it. Physical violence, not even verbal violence, and now they have carried this to even the courts. Does this have any implication whatsoever? Do you think this would have any effect whatsoever as the case progresses? This violence.
No, I think first and foremost we have to condemn any situation of violence. Assault on any individual, whether a politician or a Nigerian, should be really condemned. And so we condemn anything that assaults on anybody whatsoever under any reason.
Right.
So let's just put that there. But I'm listening to Mr. Lamidi Apapa's position. He appeared in court And I think it started with Mr. Oshuto, who is also the presidential campaign spokesperson of the OB campaign. There was a problem with who should sit where. That was where the office started from the court. You know that she did both. And they said there was no seat for him, and so there was a lot of back and forth. I think it was at first when he left the courtroom.
Yeah.
And from the interview he granted, he said he saw the young man who removed his cap and actually placed a curse on the young man. Although I thought that, I can tell that he would have exhibited a bit of more emotional balance and discretion not to do that, but because he was extremely annoyed about what happened to him. But again, I think people should be careful when we do these things, because I think it's a media papa today, and I think because it is him, we want to encourage such a physical assault. What if tomorrow somebody does it to somebody you like as a politician?
Right.
What are you going to say? Because I think it's Babalola.
Yes, it's good
so if you encourage these things because you think you are not in the good books, you don't like a media papa. What is done to the person you like, what then would you say? Because nobody has a monopoly of violence.
Oh, that's true. Everybody's capable of violence. We are just shooting by
but
sword.
we have to condemn it. And I think again, Mr. Peter Obi should have to step into this. Because one of the things that I'm not holding brief for him, and their case is in court. I think what they have said is that look, there's this accusation out there that look, it's the APC that is sponsoring him.
Yes.
And what he's saying is that look, even Mr. Peter Obi is saying he doesn't know him, and he's surprised.
Fuhad, okay, yes, it's back.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so he talked for the fact that look, even when the campaign of Mr. Peter Obi was to start, he was the one that offered an open prayer in Asaba. So at the kickoff of the campaign, so it should be wrong for Mr. Peter Obi to say he doesn't know him. And if you check Mr. Media Papa's profile on Wikipedia or on social media, he was the one-time chairman of the Labour Party in Oyo. So he's a member of the party, nobody knows him. The thing has always been a part of the I think Mr. Peter Obi needs to come up as a father figure. He's a leader, he's a leader of the party. He needs to rein everybody in, bring them together, and maybe maybe there's a political solution to the crisis in the Labour Party.
Right.
I'm sure if he steps in and plays the politics well, you could find a situation where they're going to pull out their case from court. But if they think he's a sponsored man and Mr. Peter Obi is convinced that he's sponsored, then I leave that for the Labour Party to sort out. But I think there can be a political solution to the issue.
Right. So there's one more rider here that we'd address before we move to the next headline. The application, the court process be televised. I think there's one of our callers that constantly calls in to ask, when are they going to start? Are they going to show it on television? And well, the the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has actually did apply that the process be televised. But we're being told that legal team of the president-elect actually are opposed to that particular idea. In their words, they say it's an abuse of courts. Fuhad, this is a matter of national interest. Every single person is interested. They want to be abreast of the situation. They want to see everything that is happening. So do you really think that televising the process might actually be a reasonable thing to do, or you can understand the perspective of the legal team of the president-elect that says, in a way, this is an abuse of court? They kind of feel like there will be some sort of interference if the process is televised. What is your perspective or your opinion on this particular issue?
Well, number one, the decision to televise or not lies solely on what the court thinks about the process.
Yes.
If the court wants it televised, they give room for people to bring in their cameras and televise it. And I'm sure they're going to give guidelines to how it will be televised. Maybe just one team feeding others with your reports and all of that, because again, they can't have too many people coming with cameras.
Yes.
But if the courts also think that because of how sensitive the issues are, and they don't want it scandalized, they don't, because again, just imagine that televising the report and then people just begin to prey on the judges. Because you see a lot of ridiculous things on social media.
That's
people
true.
just begin to and there are a lot of and all of that. So maybe the court think that I'm not again the decision or whether to decide or not will be decided by the court. These are positions that the parties are bringing to the table. We supposing it, as people want it, Labour still want the court to decide on that. I'll just say that, look, Is it because the side that should be televised or national interest? If they say no, because of how sensitive the issues are, I don't want anything that will distract them from really doing the job. I think we just have to accept that. But the reality is that every proceeding of the court will be reported in the papers.
Yes.
The way we are reviewing it. So we'll just wait to see whether the court will allow for a televised session. If they don't allow it, we'll continue to report it the way we are reporting it.
Right. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper is where you get details of that story. Moving on now. Hoodlums take over failed portion of Oshodi Mushin Link Road. That is the headline. Let's look through the report very briefly. There are growing concerns over activities of hoodlums who are taking advantage of failed portions of Oshodi Mushin Link Road to wreak havoc on unsuspecting motorists and commuters in Oshodi. There's some sort of harassment and robbery on the road, and this is also because of the lack of street lights along the road. Daily, motorists are robbed and harassed by hoodlums while trying to maneuver the crater-sized potholes and gullies that dot the failed portion of the road in front of Oshodi interchange to connect to Agege Motor Road. Fuhad, I mean, this is not exactly breaking news. It's not new information. I mean, we even had reports where we see hoodlums deliberately vandalize the roads. They damage a section of the road to slow down vehicles so that they can, extort them, collect money from them, rob them. And this just doesn't just happen with the roads. Even the rail system, they deliberately damage it so that you have to slow down, or they start to steal materials from the rails and what have you. And now it has finally made it to the papers. Obviously this is something that has continued, and then we see not only are they extorting the motorists, they're also robbing people of their properties. And Lagos doesn't sleep. As early as 4 a.m. people are already on the road. There's no lights. Obviously there will be no security personnel on the road at that time to even rescue you in the event of an attack. Do you want to talk about this, how this deficiency in infrastructure is now causing people to lose their property and making them susceptible to attacks by hoodlums on the roads?
Well, this is a story that the Commissioner of Police in Lagos will have to pay attention to. And I think ultimately the governor too, because he's the chief security of the state. Lagos is too dark.
Yes.
Really. There's too much. And violence and thrives in darkness.
In darkness.
It automatically thrives in darkness. Again, the street lights are not lit at night. Nobody knows what happens to all the street lights. Everywhere is just too dark. That's why when we talk about a mega city, Lagos is a mega city. We have a very dark city in Lagos, and you don't expect crime to thrive. And this is the minimum where the street lights are working. Let's have the street well lit. And then, of course, pay attention to some of these black spots. The police authority is black spots, really. Not just that section of emotion getting to Agege Motor Road. Ojota has its own issues. Before you get onto the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, part of Ogudu too. And different areas in Lagos are already considered as black spots. In fact, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has a lot of black spots because of the road construction that is unending.
Yeah.
So this is for the governors. God knows when the road will end. Construction of road on that end will end. So, but I think the governor has to pay attention to it. The arrangement for security in the RRS is 45 and more. Because again, I think a lot of these things are handled by the RRS, which is the Rapid Response Squad in Lagos. But generally, I think the police authorities have to wake up, and then the governor has to also look at how to, take care of some of these transport, and then of course get Lagos needs. We need the street light working.
Well, you can get more information on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. Hopefully this is something we can actually discuss on a community platform. On Wednesday we spoke to Ajama. Hopefully that we can discuss, we can discuss this and give more detail on this particular situation. But if you would like to read more, page 8 of the Guardian newspaper is where the detail is. Now let's move on to the next headline here. We're still on the Guardian newspaper. Telcos give banks ultimatum on USSD debt as presidency steps in. Now, with the lingering crisis between the telecommunications and deposit money banks now getting more intense, the Association of Licensed Telecoms Operators in Nigeria said members has been asked to give individual debtor bank an ultimatum. The ultimatum, the Guardian learnt, would be the preference of the affected mobile network operator Alton is the umbrella body for telecommunication operators in the country. Now, we're being told that the impact of disconnection will be catastrophic, and short code harmonization will take off. Fuhad, as you know, banks are owing telcos, and because of this, telcos have said that they will disconnect, which means that for people who use USSD code, that USSD code, you don't need internet access, nothing of the kind, you don't need to use data. All you have to do is just use the code that is particular to the bank that you use. And so if we disconnect this, I know that for the majority of people who are of, the, should I say, social class that are up there, should I say the middle class, we might not be that affected because at least we have access to the internet. But the people who use these USSD codes are mostly those in the informal sector. The woman who's selling her tomatoes, the woman who's doing this, they're the one that most of them are even unbanked. The ones that are banked actually use USSD code. And now we're being told that if the banks do not pay the telcos, telcos say we will disconnect, but we will give you an ultimatum for the sake of the consequence. Pay the money you're owing, or else we will disconnect. And that would automatically mean that you will not be able to use the SSD code. And we know the impact, the ripple effects that this is going to have on the economy, considering the formal sector is way, way, way broader than the formal sector that we have in this country.
The question is, why are the banks owing?
There's no money in the land.
Because yes, if one people use these services, they pay. They are deducted as source. The charges are added to whatever transaction you do. So it means that there's a problem with remittances. Okay, if there's a part of the money that should go to the telcos, why are the banks holding on to that money? Because these monies are deducted as source. Maybe you use that application, it's added to the charges of the transaction. So if you have the money, why are they not paying? So they should pay the telcos who have a right to demand for their money. They also offer the service. If I do a transfer at the bank, don't even wait, they just remove the money immediately. So I'm thinking that I think if the federal government can come in, I don't know why they even have to come in, because it's a private business entity. We should have rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement is that if I offer a service, you pay me. So I think the banks will have to find a way to pay, because this will affect their customers. Well, it would be nice to know, it would even be nice to know the banks that are owing, because again, it can be, probably may not be all the banks.
Fuhad, you want to drag them or not?
But we don't want to mention names here, but again, it would have been nice to know the banks that are owing, so you know that your bank is only basic.
Wow. It's no problem. There's no.
We will not mention it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the presidency has stepped in and they've asked that at least the telcos give these banks an ultimatum rather than just outrightly withdraw their service. We don't know how long it's going to be. We don't know how long the ultimatum will be, but it's just a recommendation from the presidency. Give them some time. If they now, if they're not able to meet up, then, whatever consequence or whatever you decide to do afterwards, maybe we can review it. But let's see what happens at the end of the day. And that's it for the report on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. You're still listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. Fuhad Saheed is with me here, and like I said before, we're looking through all the stories on the front pages of our dailies this morning. Don't worry, it will get to the time where you would be able to contribute to the show, but for now, just pay attention to all of these stories. Now, moving on to the Nation newspaper. The major headline, as reported, expect institutional reforms, Tinubu promises Nigerians. Riders to this, United States Secretary of State calls President-elect on phone. Keyamo chides fuming Atiku for criticizing Blinken's action. And this is a report we already analyzed when we were checking the Guardian newspaper. Fuhad, would you like to add anything to this particular report? Maybe with Keyamo speaking to Atiku?
No. Keyamo is a member of the APC.
Well, and
he's always quick to respond to things like this.
Right.
I've said what I need to say. I think we need not to bother ourselves too much with the fact that Blinken spoke with the president-elect. He's the president-elect as recognized by the Constitution.
Yes.
But again, it's not yet over. The case is still in court. So there's something different. We can have which is money for the justice. And how happens that having the foreign powers to also relate to Nigeria. If somebody else is declared winner, I'm sure they're going to congratulate the person.
Oh, definitely.
And start to relate to the person immediately. So I don't really see why. And I'm not surprised that people is even jumping into this particular one. He's old enough in politics to know that whatever statement is made is unnecessary.
Well, let's move on then. That's it. You can get more details on the front page of The Nation. It's continued on page 4. Let's move on. EFCC writes outgoing governors. Riders, Matawali beam searchlight on federal government agencies. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will begin investigation into the activities of some governors whose tenure expire on May 29. It was learned yesterday. The anti-graft body, which has written to some of them, is also beaming the searchlight on commissioners who served in their administration. Now, Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawali, who confirmed the receipt of the agency's letter, objected to what he described as the consistent castigation of governors by the anti-graft agency. He frowned at the statement credited to the EFCC chairman, Abdulrashid Bawa, that he sent invitations to outgoing governors and commissioners in a bid to begin investigation into alleged corruption and abuse of office perpetrated by them while in office. Because of our time, basically, Bello Matawali of Zamfara State, he has, you know what he said about the CBN governor regarding the study leave. Don't go anywhere, stay back, you have questions to answer. Now, he's not necessarily opposing the invitation or the letter that was written to governors or outgoing governors by the EFCC. He's simply saying, why are you so selective? What about those who served under the president? He's talking about the presidency. They should also be probed. Why is all the attention on the outgoing governors? Do you agree with him that maybe the EFCC should not be selective about their probe? As you're probing the governors for alleged corruption, you should also check those who served under the outgoing administration, the presidency, the members of cabinet. You should also probe them, for all of the allegations that have been leveled against them during the period of their tenure, considering their immunity would immediately elapse after the inauguration. Fuhad, do you think that you can move or something? It's difficult to hear. No, not necessarily. Should we disconnect and call you back?
Okay, maybe you call me.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's disconnect and call you back. It's still trending in the papers. We're going to try to get Fuhad back on the line so that he can react to that particular story. Whilst you're waiting to get Fuhad back on the line, there's also another story here. INEC will be unwilling to pay exhibit certification fee. That is a story we have addressed whilst we're looking through the Guardian newspaper. Labour Party faction chair Papa beaten up after clash with Abura Group in court. I think we have Fuhad back on the line. Hello, Fuhad.
Yes, it's better now?
Yes, it's good. Please go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, I don't know why the governor of Zamfara State he's not very vocal and speaking to every issue. I think he lost an election, he lost a election bid in Zamfara State, and I think he should concentrate on transition in that state. He cannot tell the EFCC how to do their job. Even though I agree that, whatever investigation the EFCC is carrying out should not be limited to outgoing governors. It should also be extended to the presidency. I agree completely with that, but I just think that, trying to tell the EFCC how to do their job for me, that's the case, the governor, the EFCC,
Fuhad, we absolutely cannot hear what you said in the past 5 seconds. Would you be kind enough to go over it again?
No, what I'm saying is that, look, if Bello Matawali of Zamfara State has been written by the EFCC to say, hey, there are cases against you, you would have to call him in for questions. I think he should concentrate on his own personal case rather than trying to tell the EFCC how to do their job. Like I said, I agree with him that, look, this investigation should not be limited to the governors alone and their associates. That the presidency should also be investigated. I agree completely. But I think he should concentrate more on his own issues if he has any issue with the EFCC. And of course, we also want to call on the EFCC to be fair to everyone, not be selective in who to try or who to investigate. It should be an all-round thing. But again, I think Bello Matawali is so much in the news now. I don't know why. He has been a very quiet governor, really, not so much vocal.
Wow.
But these days he has found someone found his voice and put into all issues.
Yeah, and I see all the fire of Kaduna State was, the popular governor a while ago.
Now you keep finding the news.
Yes, and now we're having Bello Matawale, speaking. But now that there's just few days before the 10-year expiration, we don't know why. Maybe we'll find out as more reports come out. We don't
already leave office. We know why.
Exactly. Maybe we would know why, but for now we have no idea. All we can do is report what the papers are telling us. You can get more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. All the other headlines here have been addressed, but let me just read through it. Hospitals paralyzed in Lagos, Abuja, Calabar, others, Ondo, Yobe, Osun, yet to join patients for evacuation. There might be a need to evacuate patients in the hospitals that are not functional. It's so unfortunate that patients are going to suffer because of the doctors are trying to get their point across to the government. Anyways, that's really it for the Nation newspaper. We don't have much time, so we're just going to look through New Telegraph. The major story for New Telegraph: National Assembly leadership crisis. APC moves to break G6 opposition alliance, opts for open contest to brief Tinubu governors. Wase, Betara, Gaji, others closing on consensus. Let's speak about this as briefly as we can. So we do have the story here. There are indications that the ruling All Progressives Congress may have devised another strategy to checkmate the ongoing crisis in its fold. It was reliably gathered, that's according to to the New Telegraph newspaper, that they intend to break the ranks of the G6 and other opposition alliances who were against the party's leadership decision. So apparently, according to New Telegraph, the APC, in a bid to resolve the infighting that was born out of the decision to zone and microzone the position of Senate President, Deputy Speaker and Deputy Speakership, that what they intend to do is the G6 who are opposed to this decision, they would break down their position in a matter of speaking as a means to resolve the crisis. I don't know how exactly that is supposed to work. I'm quite limited in politics, but what do you think they mean by they're going to break the ranks of the G6 as a means to deal with the infighting that was born out of their decision to zone and microzone?
The G6 didn't start as G6, it started as G7.
Yes, it's not G6.
So they broke one thread out of G7, so it remains 6. So don't be surprised that in the next few days, G6 return to G1. So if you want to know what they mean by breaking ranks, basically what they do is to reach out to members of the party, dangle, juicy positions at them, or probably just offer something nice. Again, that's what is called juicy position in the legislature.
Yes.
Wow. So when they say they're going to break their, it's about politics, it's about negotiation and positioning. Right. So all they do basically is to speak to members of the G6 and see how they can drag them in, and then of course make them abandon the G6 arrangement. So it's just pure politics. I think this is no politicians play their game. Right. But again, so it would be nice to see the G6 can remain intact so when the 10th assembly is inaugurated. And then also we are watching to see the G6 will be able to arrive at a consensus. Right. So basically one of them has to contest for the position. They cannot go. They have to field someone. So a big one for them to decide on that, the G6, on how to achieve a consensus, which I think is going to be extremely difficult, really. Right.
Well, we're out of time. A presidential tribunal, Tinubu opposes live coverage of proceedings. Patients stranded at lawsuit as resident doctor strike begins. Insecurity. U.S. condemns attack on missions convoy in Nigeria. CBN's bank assets grow by 25.12% to 77.59 trillion naira. This is me just trying to run through the headlines on the front page of New Telegraph. For Vanguard, presidential poll drama as Labour Party factions clash at tribunal. Blinken calls Tinubu pledges to strengthen U.S.-Nigeria relations. Hospital services disrupted as resident doctors begin 5-day strike. U.S. vows to fish out killers of embassy staff in Anambra State. That's pretty much it for the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. That's all we can take for trends in the papers this morning. Thank you for your participation. Fuhad, thank you for your analysis so far. So we're going to go on a break. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus. It's Open Mic Thursday, so you get to you pick whatever story you would like to make the focus of the day. Let's go on that break, but don't go anywhere. It's still Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Yeah, I know what this is. 98.3 Mainland FM.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Nobody wants to grow old with no money.